The following is from the Hadi Benotto translation of the volumes discovered at Dar es Balat. I was born Leto Atreides II, more than 3,000 standard years ago, measuring from the moment when I caused these words to be printed. My father was Paul Muad'Dib. My mother was his Fremen consort, Chani. My maternal grandmother was Farula, a noted herbalist among the Fremen. My paternal grandmother was Jessica, a product of the Bene Gesserit breeding scheme in their search for a male who could share the powers of the sisterhood's reverend mothers. My maternal grandfather was Leto II, the planetologist who organized the ecological transformation of Arrakis. My paternal grandfather was the Atreides, descendant of the house of Atreus, and tracing his ancestry directly back to the Greek original. Enough of these begats. My paternal grandfather died as many good Greeks did, attempting to kill his mortal enemy, the old Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Both of them rest uncomfortably now in my ancestral memories. Even my father is not content. I have done what he feared to do, and now his shade must share in the consequences. The golden path demands it. And what is the golden path, you ask? It is the survival of humankind, nothing more nor less. We who have prescience, we who know the pitfalls in our human futures, this has always been our responsibility, survival. How you feel about this, your petty woes and joys, even your agonies and raptures, seldom concerns us. My father had this power. I have it stronger. We can peer now and again through the veils of time. This planet of Arrakis, from which I direct my multi-galactic empire, is no longer what it was in the days when it was known as Dune. In those days, the entire planet was a desert. Now, there is just this little remnant, my Sarir. No longer does the giant sandworm roam free, producing the spice melange, the spice. Dune was noteworthy only as the source of melange, the only source. What an extraordinary substance. No laboratory has ever been able to duplicate it, and it is the most valuable substance humankind has ever found. Without melange to ignite the linear prescience of guild navigators, people cross the parsecs of space only at a snail's crawl. Without melange, the Bene Gesserit cannot endow truthsayers or reverend mothers. Without the geriatric properties of melange, people live and die according to the ancient measure, no more than 100 years or so. Now, the only spice is held in guild and Bene Gesserit storehouses, a few small hoards among the remnants of the great houses, and my gigantic hoard, which they all covet. How they would like to raid me, but they don't dare. They know I would destroy it all before surrendering it. No, they come hat in hand and petition me for melange. I dole it out as a reward and hold it back as punishment. How they hate that! It is my power, I tell them. It is my gift. With it I create peace. They have had more than 3,000 years of Leto's peace. It is an enforced tranquility, which humankind knew only for the briefest periods before my ascendancy. Lest you have forgotten, study Leto's peace once more in these, my journals. I began this account in the first year of my stewardship, in the first throes of my metamorphosis, when I was still mostly human, even visibly so. The sand trout skin which I accepted, and my father refused, and which gave me greatly amplified strength plus virtual immunity from conventional attack and aging, that skin still covered a form recognizably human, 2 legs, 2 arms, a human face framed in the scrolled folds of the sand trout. Aha, that face! I still have it. The only human skin I exposed to the universe. All the rest of my flesh has remained covered by the linked bodies of those tiny deep sand vectors which one day can become giant sandworms, as they will someday. I often think about my final metamorphosis, that likeness of death. I know the way it must come, but I do not know the moment or the other players. This is the one thing I cannot know. I only know whether the golden path continues or ends. As I cause these words to be recorded, the golden path continues, and for that, at least, I am content. I no longer feel the sand trout cilia probing my flesh, encapsulating the water of my body within their placental barriers. We are virtually one body now, they my skin, and I the force which moves the whole, most of the time. At this writing, the whole could be considered rather gross. I am what could be called a pre-worm. My body is about 7 meters long and somewhat more than 2 meters in diameter, ribbed for most of its length, with my Atreides face positioned man-height at one end, the arms and hands, still quite recognizable as human, just below. My legs and feet, well, they are mostly atrophied, just flippers really, and they have wandered back along my body. The whole of me weighs approximately 5 old tons. These items I append because I know they will have historical interest. How do I carry this weight around? Mostly on my royal cart, which is of Ixian manufacture. You are shocked. People invariably hated and feared the Ixians even more than they hated and feared me. Better the devil you know. And who knows what the Ixians might manufacture or invent? Who knows? I certainly don't, not all of it. But I have a certain sympathy for the Ixians. They believe so strongly in their technology, their science, their machines. Because we believe, no matter the content, we understand each other, the Ixians and I. They make many devices for me, and think they earn my gratitude thus. These very words you are reading were printed by an Ixian device. A dictatel, it is called. If I cast my thoughts in a particular mode, the dictatel is activated. I merely think in this mode, and the words are printed for me on Redulian crystal sheets, only 1 molecule thick. Sometimes I order copies printed on material of lesser permanence. It was 2 of these latter types that were stolen from me by Siona. Isn't she fascinating, my Siona? As you come to understand her importance to me, you may even question whether I really would have let her die there in the forest. Have no doubt about it. Death is a very personal thing. I will seldom interfere with it. Never in the case of someone who must be treated as Siona requires. I could let her die at any stage. After all, I could bring up a new candidate in very little time as I measure time. She fascinates even me, though. I watched her there in the forest, through my Ixian devices. I watched her, wondering why I had not anticipated this venture. But Siona is Siona. That is why I made no move to stop the wolves. It would have been wrong to do that. The D-wolves are but an extension of my purpose, and my purpose is to be the greatest predator ever known.